All right. Oh, that's exciting. Hey guys, it's Katie. I made a video a few months ago saying that I was very nervous for Captain America Civil War, and then I realized that I never made a video saying what I ended up thinking about it. So today I'm going to give my review for Captain America Civil War. Overall, I definitely loved the movie. I'd probably give it like low A-, B+. There were definitely things that I had an issue with that I thought they could have done better, but as a film, I think it was great. For me, when I first saw it, I felt blown away. It was almost too much to take in at once. I've seen it 4 times now, and now I finally feel comfortable talking about it because I have seen it so many times and I've had enough time to like think, and like I don't want to make a video like after the first time I saw it because I knew I would be completely biased, because if I see a movie once, usually it's for superhero movies, I'm like, wow, that's the best thing ever, and I don't give myself enough time to like think about it and be like, actually that didn't make sense, you know, that could have been done better. So yeah, now that I've seen it 4 times, I feel like I can properly vocalize how I felt about it, even though I'm having trouble now. To start off with, my main issue with the movie is that it wasn't really a Captain America movie. I am a firm believer that it should have been Avengers Civil War, because while it does focus a lot on Cap, it focuses also a lot on Iron Man, and I mean obviously he's the co-star, but it's supposed to be a Captain America story, and it didn't really feel like a Captain America story. It didn't feel like it wrapped up the first 2 movies. I didn't feel like this was a successful sequel to The Winter Soldier. It didn't wrap up like Bucky's storyline really in a way. It just felt like an Avengers movie, and I think if they had decided to make this Avengers Civil War, that would have been perfectly fine. But they also, I feel like, should have done some sort of like different Cap movie, or if this is the last in the trilogy, I'm gonna be kind of upset. They should definitely make a 4th that like actually wraps up everything. But I mean, also I feel like it's too late now, because if they made a 4th Captain America movie, first off, where would that fit? It's not gonna be what I wanted it to be, which sucks. So that was my main issue with it. Every other problem I had with this movie was like details. Personally, I hated the awkward romance between Cap and Sharon. I don't think that made any sense. It just wasn't well done. I heard a rumor that it was tacked on at the end in post because people were shipping Stucky, and the Marvel head company was like, no homo, like no, Steve and Bucky are just friends, here, let's add some unnecessary heterosexual romance that doesn't make any sense. I mean, like Sharon and Steve could be cute, like Peggy and Steve were very cute, and I guess despite the fact that she's Peggy's niece, they could have been cute if like you gave them more development romantically. Like I think Tony and Pepper worked very well because they had movies to develop it and there was a greater focus on it, and Sharon wasn't really in the movie, so to throw her in just to be Cap's love interest just felt gross, and they didn't even develop her at all. I wanted to see her kicking more ass. She just felt like she was there to be like, hey Cap, this is where Bucky is, and then like kiss, and it was kind of stupid. I thought it was already said that Bucky killed Tony's parents. Like the way they revealed it, I was like, oh shit, they're going with this. But everyone was surprised, like, oh my god, I had no idea he killed his parents. And I was like, didn't they say that in the second movie? When Steve and Natasha are in that underground Hydra thing and they're talking to the German scientist. Doesn't matter. They're talking to the computer guy, and he's like, mistakes will happen or something, and they show Howard Stark and they cross out his face, and I'm like, I mean, like they're basically saying Hydra killed him, but I just assumed, I was like, yeah, Bucky killed his dad, obviously, like he's the Winter Soldier who works for Hydra killed him, Bucky. But then everyone was like, oh, I had no idea, and I was like, okay, maybe that's just me. Let's talk about things I did like. Black Panther, holy shit, he was so freaking cool. And like Bucky Barnes is my favorite character, so of course I was kind of like peeved that Black Panther was like always fighting him, but Black Panther was so cool. It didn't bother me, because I was like, yeah, the vibranium suit, and then he was like, how long can you like protect your friend from me, or like whatever. I was like, oh shit. And like Chadwick did a great job, let me just say. The way they introduced him was great. It was so nice to see him get such a strong presence in the movie for a new character especially. But that's another reason why I think it should have been called Avengers, because there was a lot of like focus on like Black Panther and Spider-Man, and like it's a Captain America movie, so that just didn't make sense to me. So if it was just Avengers Civil War, it made so much more sense. As soon as we walked out the theater, I was like, so when's the Black Panther movie? Because I need him in my life now. He's great. Also, that woman, the bald lady who was like, move or you will be moved. I was like, damn, who is she? I need a movie all about her. I want to see her origin story now. Yeah, oh, and him running and like landing like a cat always, and like swooping and like knocking Bucky off the motorcycle was sick. That was amazing. More new characters. Spider-Man was low-key amazing. Like, I wasn't excited about Spider-Man. I've never been a huge Spider-Man fan, which is funny because he's on my shirt. He's low on my list of faves, but he was pretty cool. He got me very excited for the new Spider-Man franchise. I saw Andrew Garfield and I thought he was cool. I wasn't a huge fan of Tobey Maguire. I think Tom Holland. I think he's so far my favorite Spider-Man. I think he did a great job, especially because Spider-Man's supposed to be young, and he's clearly young, and like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are young-ish, but they're not like Spider-Man young. I also like that they're not gonna make a whole like origin story about it. Like, I don't want to see Uncle Ben die again. It's so unnecessary. Who wants to talk about? Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. They were awesome. They were so cool. I loved their dynamic. I loved... Can you move your seat up? No. That was hilarious. And then when they smiled at Steve after he awkwardly kissed Sharon, that was cute. When they're lying there and he's like, you couldn't have done that earlier, and he's like, I hate you. They were adorable. I want them to be best friends. I remember thinking that after I saw Winter Soldier, and I was like, okay, when they get Bucky back, him and Falcon need to be best friends. And they're going there and it's beautiful. When they're fighting Spider-Man, that was amazing. When he's like, whoa, you have a metal arm? That's so cool. I was like, yes, beautiful. Speaking of which, that fight scene at the airport was amazing. When Giant Man, that was so cool. And Rhodey, when Vision fucked up and like shot him, I was like, Vision, no! That was so heartbreaking. Especially because Tony, that sucks. That's his best friend. And then Tony obviously was very upset, but I hated that he shot Sam afterwards. And I'm like, it wasn't Sam's fault that Vision accidentally shot Rhodey. I get that Tony is venting his frustration, but that just totally pissed me off, especially because like Sam knows he froze, I'm assuming, because like this is what happened to Riley, because they were both flying and then Riley died. So I'm imagining this is how Riley died, and he froze. Because they could have saved Rhodey if they hadn't paused. They both had that like little pause, or like as soon as Sam like avoided the shot, he could have dove, but he didn't, and I think he froze because of the Riley thing. I was reading something about that. Vision and Scarlet Witch's romance, I'm assuming they're going for a romance here, I think is kind of weird. It just felt a little forced and awkward, but the awkwardness made it somewhat redeemable. Like, it wasn't just awkwardly forced, it was just like, hee hee, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm a machine. I love the line where he's like, I've never eaten anything, so I don't really know what I'm doing. That was great. I don't think him trying to trap her inside the tower is a good basis for a relationship. That just seemed weird to me. Zemo, when I first saw it, I like misinterpreted what his motivations were, but like now that I've seen him a bunch of times, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Like, it's one of those recurring themes throughout the movie. Zemo wants revenge for his like family, and Tony is also going for his family. I mean, looking back on it now, the whole superhero, the additional super soldiers was kind of unnecessary, but I liked it because I thought it showed almost how ruthless Zemo is in like a quiet sense. Like, he didn't need to kill them, but he did, just because he wanted to get them to a very isolated area. And I guess there could have been other isolated areas that didn't include the Winter Soldier plot, but I think it worked. I liked how he wasn't there to kill them himself. He knew he couldn't handle it, but he just wanted to get them to tear each other apart, and like that fight sequence was heartbreaking. When Steve like takes the shield and you think he's gonna decapitate Tony, that was crazy. I was like, I honestly thought he was gonna do it, and I was like, there's no way, like Steve wouldn't do that. And then he didn't, and it was like, Also, when Bucky was fighting Tony, and I'm getting chills, honestly, when he like is tearing out the arc reactor and he rips it and it like rips on Bucky's arm off. I had read a spoiler that Bucky was gonna lose his arm, and I thought Tony was gonna rip it off himself, so I was very worried. But it blows off his arm. That was crazy. And then Steve does that thing where he's like, I could do this all day, and I was like, yes! But the parallels they made between like him and Tony, and like he said that in the first movie. They're basically comparing Tony to the past villains that Steve's had to fight. I think that's interesting because I don't think Tony's a villain, but the way they try to paint him is definitely in the sense that they wanted this to be more of a Captain America movie, but the previous entire half of the movie wasn't like that at all. So I thought that was very interesting. When Tony is screaming at him at the end to like that was my father's shield, you don't deserve that shield, and then Steve drops it. That was insane. I mean, like, I had a feeling that he was gonna die or like stop being Captain America somehow, but like the way they handled that I thought was especially brilliant. And that brings me to my final point, because I think the most important thing about this movie, whether you ship it or not, is that Steve and Bucky care about each other, like a lot. Not everyone's gonna think it's romantic. I personally think it is, but their friendship, at the very least, is the main theme of this movie, because Steve does everything he does in this movie because he wants to protect Bucky, because people are trying to take him away or like harm him, and that's not something he can just let happen because they've grown up together their entire lives. I especially love the line when Tony's like, you're gonna hand over Barnes and do all this stuff because it's us. And I'm like, no, he's not, because it's Bucky, and he can't just hand over his best friend. Granted, these people are his friends too, but Bucky's his Bucky. It's like Tony's relationship with Rhodey when he's like, give me back my Rhodey. Like, this is his best friend, and he can't just let these people take him and do whatever they want with him. I mean, to me, it's so obviously a romance, but not everyone's gonna see it that way. But I think it's just especially important to recognize the fact that their friendship is so central to the entire Captain America trilogy, and specifically this movie. Everything Steve does is for Bucky, and he you can't deny it. Like, he does everything because he wants to keep Bucky safe. I mean, that's what I took away from this movie. I mean, I don't even want to get into why I like find it romantic, because it's up to interpretation. It really doesn't matter. I just wish that this had been a real sequel to The Winter Soldier and had focused more on their relationship, even if it's just platonic, you know? I don't think the way they wrapped up the Winter Soldier storyline was as successful as it could have been. I especially hated the first after credits scene where Bucky goes into the cryo freeze. That makes no sense. He was trying to like help himself by freezing himself. And granted, the reason why he is so brain damaged is because he's been electrocuted and they're trying to like wipe his memories, but I feel like the cold doesn't help, and I just think it was a way for the writers to like get him out of there. They don't have to deal with like what's going on with Bucky while everyone else is doing whatever. He's just in a cryo freeze. You don't have to worry about him until later. Like, when the time comes, we can just take him out. And I thought that was lazy. The second after credit scene I loved. I love when he's like, Steve, he's from Brooklyn. Basically, that's what I thought of the movie. I did really enjoy it. Obviously, I had issues with it, but I'm gonna have issues with every movie because I'm a picky person and I go to film school, so I'm basically being trained to see these things. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this movie. I'd love to know if you disagree with me. We could fight about it. If you want to get into like romantic versus platonic with Bucky and Steve, like, feel free to let it all out because I'd love to argue. If you liked this review or you want to see me do more reviews, let me know. I am very passionate about superheroes, so thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more of me, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. Be sure to follow me on all my social medias. They'll be down in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! What is this place called? The Freeling. It's for the trees. I think the lights look pretty good. Ooh, they're hot. Very hot. It's very hot in here.